Mark Alexander, president of South African Rugby, has said they are devastated after hearing of the passing of Rugby World Cup winner James Small. Small, who made his debut for the Springboks against New Zealand in 1995, was rushed to hospital on Tuesday night after a suspected heart attack before passing away a day later. Former teammate and rugby commentator Hennie Le Roux joins us on the line. A very good morning and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning and thank you.
Where were you, Hennie, when you heard the news?
I was at the office in Randburg, and I must say it was rather devastating, something very unexpected. James was only 50 years old, and he had so much still to contribute, which is, deeply saddened everyone, and there's been a lot of condolences, to the family and so forth. So we're all rather, upset about it all.
I mean, Hennie, and you received this news on your birthday.
Yes, so it was a mixed feelings day, but obviously it's got really overshadowed by that because someone's death is a lot more permanent. You can always have another birthday, but yeah, I mean, James had so much to offer and so much still to do, and he was an example for so many people in terms of his commitment and his passion and so forth. So it's really sad news.
Hennie, were you in contact with him in the last couple of months?
I saw James at a golf day probably 3 months ago, and he looked reasonably fit and healthy, and it wasn't really expected at all.
And how was he emotionally? Was he happy? Was he content?
Yes, James, in many ways, he kind of, let's call it, had a personality which he tended to group his friends. He had very tight friends in certain areas and so forth, and there was nothing untoward in terms of his behaviour at all. So it was nothing abnormal at all.
You were on the bench back in 1992 when he played his first game for the Springboks, and that was against the All Blacks at Ellis Park. Do you remember the first time that you actually saw him play and what you thought?
Yes, well, I mean, I was fortunate to play with James in those early, days at Transvaal and so forth. And he was an extremely talented player, someone who had all the required skills, and he could start and finish off in superb form. He was really someone who you had to keep a very close eye on, and we were fortunate to have him on our side most of my career. So it was really good to have someone with his extent and talent on your side.
It seems as all the tributes continue to pour in from all over the world, from all over the sporting spectrum, from all over the rugby world, that much is made not only of his rugby talent but also his personality. He worked really hard over the last decade to drop the bad boy image that was created during his playing days. How will you remember him, Hennie?
Yeah, I mean, James was, while he was playing, he had an entourage of following, where there'd be, ladies and men who just admired him, and he was a little bit of a rebel while he played, but that didn't take away any of his commitment and dedication to the jersey and to the sport, and that was just James being James, which we understood and grew to like him within those parameters. So, James will always be remembered as someone, in my view, who was always willing to sign autographs and try and develop and look after young kids who were pretty close to him, and someone who had enormous passion for the jersey and was extremely committed on the field to produce the highest of quality.
Well, as the tributes pour in, and what we've seen on social media yesterday when the news broke, he certainly was a well-loved figure, the 1995 Rugby World Cup winner. Hennie, thank you so much, and thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, pleasure.